morning, everyone. It's Yvonne here to do your What's Cracking reading. I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for your support and love that you send me every day. And I'm so glad that my readings resonate with you. I really love doing them and bringing you the messages sometimes that you just need to hear. Of course, I'm on the journey right there with you. I'm no different. I still have the messages. I still do the work I need to do. It's sometimes can be a little challenging because we like to think when we get to a certain point that we're so comfortable and satisfied, but then of course we still have other things we need to deal with. So it's quite an interesting journey, but we only get to do it once, right? Okay, so we're going to use the Lightseer's Tarot for your reading today, which is the one that looks like that and that. Nice that I got the Fool there. Oh, the World. Just if you're interested, I am doing star sign readings on another channel, which is called the Aussie Goddess Astro Tarot, if you're interested in star sign readings. I'm still trying to get around to the podcast, but I am getting there. So if you're interested in watching them, please go. Please listen on Buzzsprout. All the links to these are in the box below. And then yesterday I did post where I'm going to be this year in regards to local people, New South Wales people. I think I've got about 8 fairs lined up for the year. So if you're in the area, everything would be on my Facebook page at the Aussie Goddess. If you join me there, I try to keep everybody in the loop there. All right, let's get into this reading. Oh, how funny. When I picked the deck up before, I thought it was the Fool card, and then the Fool card comes out. That's intuition. I don't know how it happens. Sometimes as a reader, you can feel the cards or you can see the cards before they come into being. And I used to think when I first started that it looked dodgy. I used to think people are never going to believe that I just did that. But now over time, I've realized, things like pulling a different deck and still getting the same cards, people writing to me and saying, I pulled the same cards, here's my spread. I don't know why it is that we pick the same cards. Another thing that can happen is if something is really determined in the universe, determined to get us to move along on a cycle or on a healing, for example, the card will repeat and repeat and repeat until we sort of take notice of it. So just thinking, when you're doing this work, I guess it is pretty awesome. But I'm not able to explain why. I just understand that the universe works through me when I'm doing readings. So we have the Fool starting out. And the Fool means we're going to be required to take some leap of faith. Now, the other thing I've learned with tarot too is not only can other people interpret it differently, which is fine, we're going on your energy. So we read your energy source. And when we're getting collective energy, we're pretty much pulling out the energy that is most prominent or most definite. When you're doing a personal reading and you've got that person there, it's a little bit sort of more, I want to say more easy, it sounds less technical, but more easy to tune in to your energy personally. With the Fool card, because it sort of means taking a leap of faith, I feel like sometimes we sort of expect a big explosion. Oh, this is going to be so big. And at times it isn't a big explosion. The Fool can be that we've decided to sell a house, or it could be that we've just decided to book a holiday. That's the Fool. It's taking that leap. It's taking that thing that you want and going for it. Even if it's something small, it's going to be important to you personally. So if today somebody presents themselves in front of you and says, I want you to act up for a couple of weeks in this position, then that will be a Fool moment. Doesn't have to be amazingly big, but it's sort of like taking a jump at something that perhaps you feel has a tiny bit of risk to it. We do have the Four of Cups, so I quite like this energy because what it says to me is that perhaps things haven't been so great for you recently. Perhaps you've been a little disinterested or a little disheartened by things, when you're going through those patches where things just don't seem to be really floating your boat. You may have sort of found things just don't have the same taste or the same flavor anymore, or maybe you're just bored generally. Now, you may not be bored, but you may be coasting through life with no, you know, excitement. And we all do that. And we think, oh, it just seems so flat at the moment, you know. This is why I say to people, get into your creative energy, do something, paint, draw, write, whatever. Because what happens then is you take your mind off that flatness, and that allows you to move forward. But the Four of Cups says to me that you're dissatisfied here, and maybe you've been a little bit sort of stuck in your emotions. You know, sometimes when we're feeling flat or low, we can recall things more easily that have caused us sadness or pain rather than the things that have caused us happiness. I feel that if you're in those moods where you're feeling flat and low, if you were to focus on the happy moments in your life, you'd be taken up. But what happens is we tend to focus on the more negative aspects of life when we're feeling flat and low. So here I sort of feel like either you've been focusing on a Cancer or a Pisces, or you've maybe been a little bit submerged in your own emotion. Now, that doesn't mean you're depressed, you know, or, you know, that low or flat, although you could be at the moment. It does mean here that you are sort of getting lost in a lot of emotion. Now, in saying that, it could be that you are doing the healing that I was talking about at the beginning, because sometimes when we're doing our healing, we have to revisit some of those more painful things to really understand what we need to work on. For example, if you've had a traumatic childhood, you may have to go back and do inner child work to really resolve the issues around yourself. But whatever this is for you, I want to say there's a brand new beginning here. So let's dig a little deeper. All right, we have you walking away from this. Okay, so this is really good, because this emotional sort of energy that you're going through, it is sort of coming to an end, or it is coming to a place where you're starting to understand your emotions. I talk about this a lot because I think it's really important. Say, for example, you find something's been triggering you. When we talk about triggers, what they often do is bring back past stuff within that particular thing that takes us straight to the emotion rather than giving us time to think about how we're going to work with that. Now, a lot of people call that emotional regulation. So say, for example, somebody reminds you of a past person, perhaps someone who wasn't as nice to you. You know, we can all recall people in our past who've been particularly nasty. And if you're an empath, you've often encountered quite a lot of that because of jealousy and discomfort. So say, for example, you have a person in your past who was particularly cruel, and then you meet someone now, and that person has the energy of that person, or they speak like that, they might even look like that person, and all of a sudden all of those past emotions come to the surface and you feel really triggered. What that means is the emotions come through so quickly that you haven't got time to think about them. So what happens is often we respond. So we can fight back, we can argue, we can get angry, we can get all of this stuff coming to the surface. Now, I feel that one of the hardest things you'll work on your journey is how to work with your triggers. So instead of being triggered to the point where all your emotions are at the surface, especially if they're unhealed, what we tend to do when we understand our triggers is recognize what happens when we're being triggered. Do you get hot in the face? Do you lose your breath? Do you feel sick on the stomach? What are those initial things? And then you can work with them. Are you going to be able to control them? Absolutely. After a period of time, once you recognize them, you'll be able to put yourself to rest and give yourself some kindness and love to be able to say, okay, that's past energy coming up and it doesn't serve me. And this to me makes me feel that there's something you've healed here that you are understanding how to work with now. All right, we have the Eight of Wands. See, somebody is communicating with you here. You've got communication coming through and it's triggering a lot of past emotion. Now, this could be a romantic thing, it could be a family thing, it could be somebody you just haven't heard from for a very long while. But it's raising a lot of energy within you that perhaps you've sort of submerged with that moon card, you've dug it down deep. So sometimes when we're hurt or we have a lot of pain, We don't deal with the emotion. We don't learn to feel it because it really hurts. So I hear people say that all the time. I don't want to think about it because it hurts me too much. But actually, that is the time to think about it. You need to process it. You need to understand why you feel that way, and you need to put it to rest or learn to live with it in a very loving and kind way. There's some sort of communication that's coming through about a new beginning for you here, and it will require a leap of faith. But in order to move forward, you've got to recognize a lot of healing triggers within yourself in order to move forward. Because it could be that if somebody's contacting you, that you're still angry about something, or you're still upset about something, or floundering, and you are perhaps approaching it from that perspective rather than approaching it from a more balanced perspective. I feel like the best thing I can say here is sometimes when we react in a way that's not good for us, we can become then very, very regretful and remorseful. We can make mistakes. So, and I've seen this with people. You get so angry that you lash out, and then later on you think all of that lashing out was like this big, and this issue was this big, and I've overreacted. I've done all of these things to disconnect from something, and now I feel like I've done the wrong thing. So let's see where we're going with this. So somebody here, you're in hermit mode here. So somebody here is contacting you, but like I said, I feel like you're in some sort of low point at the moment anyway. So it may be that you've been waiting for contact from somebody. It may be that you are not expecting the contact, but maybe you've been thinking about that person a lot. Again, it doesn't always need to be romantic or a love interest. Sometimes it could be somebody, a family member or somebody from your past who had a huge impact on you. Because I see you're going through some sort of healing at the moment, whatever that is for you. All right, we have the Hierophant coming through with the High Priestess and the Temperance card. This is definitely about trusting your intuition, being patient, and bringing some stability to yourself. I'm a processor, and I could never understand that when I was younger, because people would say and do things to me, and I'd stand there at the mercy of all sorts of things, and then later on I go, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I say that? And I realized as time went by, I'm a person who needs to process. So now if I'm feeling upset and somebody comes at me for whatever reason, which doesn't happen so much anymore because that energy is sort of, it's gone a little bit, so I don't have it so much anymore. But if somebody comes at you and says something or something you don't feel comfortable with, instead of responding and reacting, which you will if you're dealing with a narcissist, for example, you want to lash back, and it's really not a good thing. It just incites the other person. They just feed off that energy, and they want to see you upset and angry. So what used to happen was I would fight back, and of course it was end up in such a ruckus, but I always felt like I lost. So now when I get into that situation, if somebody attacks me in some sort of way, shape or form, I say to them, I don't want to respond at the moment. Let me think about that and I'll get back to you later. And I go away and think about it first. I don't react anymore. It doesn't mean that I'm backing down. It doesn't mean that I'm not fighting for what I need to fight for. What it means is I get a chance to respond from a place of calmness and a place of, I almost want to say, peace. It doesn't mean I'm weak. It doesn't mean I'm not showing vulnerability. What it means is that I'm understanding in that moment, I'm being put on the spot, my triggers are fully working. And if I do something from that point, I might, discontinue a relationship with that person and then later on go, what have I done? So I feel like here, this is all what you're going through. I have 4 major arcanas on the table. We have the Hermit, the Hierophant, the High Priestess, and the Temperance card. What does that mean? It means that you now need to trust your intuition, not your emotional state. I talk about your emotions a lot because I feel like many of us have grown up with a very strong emotional dysregulation. That means we can over-respond to things or under-respond to things because of who we are rather than because of the emotion we're feeling. So to me, this is very much, look at this, 10 of Cups energy coming through. But like the 8 of Pentacles. It could be a work situation for some of you here. And the 9 of Pentacles. It could be something you're experiencing at work. that's put you on the down low. It could be you're dealing with somebody who is quite narcissistic or quite angry, or you've got to remember all those things point to jealousy of you. So if you have somebody in the workplace who is jealous of you, who feels that you can do better than them, who feels that you have greater standing, who somehow in their own mind feel that you have specialist treatment, for example, and they may be picking or finding some way to get your triggers going. And that is really easy if you're understanding someone's triggers. We can all understand people's triggers, but most of us don't try to get people angry. We don't try to get people upset. But there are people out there who actually get off on that sort of thing, like triggering you, upsetting you. It feeds their own ego. All right, so we have the Queen of Cups. Self-love is very big here. Seven of Pentacles, making changes, bringing in new things, and making changes. All right, so what I have here, apart from my hair on the table, I think it's really funny when you have long hair, like gets twined up all in all the cards, even if you've got it tied back. I don't know how it does it. And then you've got to move one and they all shift. Problems, issues. There is a big change you're making here, so let's see why. I feel that you're taking a leap of faith. So you're taking another go at something. You're coming in from a completely different perspective because you're not happy here with the way things have been. I feel like you've been very emotional about something and you're learning how to leave that behind. I feel like somebody's communicating with you about a new beginning and you're not really feeling that you can perhaps approach it from this point in time. Again, I would say if you feel angry or upset, rather than act sort of out of spontaneity, might be a good time to just say, I'll get back to you. Let me have a think about that. Because again, there's a very strong feeling here that you're in the middle or somewhere in a healing cycle, that perhaps here you need to be kind to yourself. There's a lot of energy around change, self-love, learning how to love yourself, understanding your emotional state, bringing some balance back in, learning to trust your intuition is a big one here. But I feel like here with the Death and Rebirth card, and I'm clarifying it here with the Six of Swords, so we have another card of leaving things behind, learning to take the lessons and move forward and do things differently next time around. Those triggers, when you're triggered by something and you let go, it can be so exhausting afterwards because they've sat around inside your body for such a long time with no ease. And then we get angry with ourselves for doing that. So don't have that approach. If you do lose it, if you do get upset, learn to just understand and forgive yourself and love yourself in a way that's really important to you. It's not anything that you've done wrong. It's just something that you've learned from a very young age. It's like chucking a tantrum as an adult. And people will set out to start that within you. They know it upsets you. And very often it's masking their own jealousies or masking their own insecurities rather than highlighting yours. All right, let's see what else we've got. Oh my goodness, this card wanted to come out. I'm going to take it because it jumped out the deck at me. It's card number 22. And I've been on the 22 path the last week. In fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday on a reading and realised the date. 20th of the 2nd, 2023. And it was 22 or something when I was talking, 2:22. And I looked at the clock and it was just all twos. So it's probably for all of us is a 22. I know people are going to say out there, yes, I've been seeing twos all the time. This is about skills, craftsmanship, magician, moral strength, and invention. Now, I love to read the whole card for you because I think it would be really important today, but I will read you the starter reading. Do whatever you do as well as you can, and then make it even better. The Master Maker reminds us that our very best work is always desirable, and in the present situation, it is necessary for success. In fact, he asks that we surpass our previous best. Don't cut corners and don't take the easy way. That means digging deep. Whether making a thing or fulfilling a concept, be sure the design is elegant, pure, and functional, and then follow it, attending to every detail in its turn. He says, design beyond your skill and then raise the level of your skill to fulfill it. Give and accept only the best and do it with the love of your craft, whatever that craft may be. I feel here that in relation to this reading, what it's saying to you is if you are learning to do something differently, if you are learning a concept, an idea, a way of being, a way of doing differently, then be kind to yourself and love yourself, because you're going to hone that. You're going to own it. So whatever that is for you, if it is about your emotions and learning to understand how your emotions can sometimes get out of control or sometimes can overtake, especially when you're heightened. So if you feel hurt, targeted, aggravated, your emotions will go 100. They don't just start at the bottom and work their way up, no matter how placid you are. And people used to say all the time, you know, you never seem to get angry, you never seem to get upset. Well, because I buried it all. I buried it all deep within me. And I'd say to people, I never get angry. I absolutely embrace my anger now. I don't let it sit within me, because one day I woke up and my body was filled with pain. Every part of me hurt. I was in so much pain, I just didn't know what was wrong with me. And it freaked me out until I realized that that was what I needed to do. I actually meditated on it, and Spirit said to me, you need to work on your anger. You're holding it within you. It's fermenting in your bones. It's fermenting in your joints. And unless you learn to let it go, you're going to suffer with this pain. And I was like, no, I'm not. So I really worked hard. And now when I get angry, I just acknowledge it. I know what it is. It's not comfortable for me still, even after all these years. But I acknowledge it now rather than burying it deep within me. All right, I'll leave you with that very deep reading today. Thank you so much for joining me. My love to you all.